Section 6 of Joseph in the Snow and the Clockmaker, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Joseph in the Snow and the Clockmaker, Volume 1, by Berthold Auerbach. Translated by Grace Jane Wallace. Chapter 6. How a Village Pastor was Summoned to Court. The pastor's wife had been standing a long time at the window, looking earnestly through the panes of glass. The road was only to be seen from a corner window, the view from the others being intercepted by the sharp gables of a projecting barn, which a peasant from the wish to annoy a former pastor had built on the spot, adding an unusually high roof to block out all view from the parsonage. Now that there was a clergyman whom they all liked, the barn unluckily could not be removed. The pastor's wife was not able to see very far, even from the unobstructed window, for this was one of those days when twilight seems to prevail from one night to another. The sun shone dimly, like a watery yellow ball, through the thick clouds which now overspread the whole landscape. When the pastor installed the sledge close to the house, she nodded, but did not open the window, standing still as if fixed to the spot. She would gladly have run down to welcome her husband, but she knew that he disliked any public display of emotion or excitement. He was of a shy and simple nature, and shrunk from all eager welcomes or agitated leave-takings. She sent the maid down, however, instantly, who, quickly pressing the latch, opened the house door. In order to do something, the pastorine once more arranged the cups and the bread, though all was in perfect readiness. She took up her husband's well-warmed slippers lying beside the stove, and turned them the reverse way. She took the kettle with boiling water off the stove, and poured in fresh water. A pleasant warmth was diffused through the room, for people who live on the mountains understand this art. "Good morning, Lena," said the pastor as he at last entered the room. "God be praised indeed that I have got home again." He unfastened his fur cloak, and as it was heavy, his wife assisted him. "Is Edward still asleep?" "No, he's gone out shooting. I sent him to meet you. Did you not see him?" "No." The atmosphere of the room seemed too stifling for the pastor, for he opened the window, stood beside it for a few minutes, and then said, "It was lucky that you did not know about the wolf prowling about in the wood that all the people are in search of. Perhaps you might have imagined that the monster would swallow me up." "Come, sit down and warm yourself," answered his wife, pouring him out a cup of hot coffee. "I will hold the cup for you. I see that your fingers are so stiff from cold that you can't take it yourself. Swallow only a couple of mouthfuls at first. What was the cause of your being sent for in the middle of the night to that fierce old woman, the Rötmanin? No. First drink your coffee, and you can answer me at your leisure. I can wait." "Lena," said the pastor, a singular smile stealing over his face. "Lena, you may well be proud. I must be one of the most agreeable companions in the world. Oh, this coffee is capital. Only think, Lena, it was just 1 o'clock, for I heard it strike on the Wenger clock when I arrived at Rötmanshof. My reception there was rather noisy, for I was greeted by such an uproarious welcome that I could really scarcely get out of the sledge. The good people had unchained all the watchdogs during the night, saying it was not at all necessary to tie them up when the pastor was coming, the worthy souls really entertaining the strange superstition that the word of God is a sure defence against vicious dogs, even in the dark. It was some time, therefore, before I could make my way into the house, as all the dogs were first obliged to be shut up in their kennels. Give me another cup of coffee, Lena, it is so good." "Well, and what then?" said his wife. The pastor looked at her with a smile and continued. "The snow in that country comes up to the knees, but it has at least one good property, that of being clean, though it does wet one to the skin in the most remarkable manner. I luckily did not stumble over the huge logs in the yard, hidden in the snow, and the puddles were so obliging as to be frozen over. "Where is your master?" said I. "He is in bed." "Is he dangerously ill also?" "No, he is asleep." "Really? I am summoned to his dying wife, and the husband is comfortably sleeping. A very easy-going, pleasant world this is, thought I. Well, I went straight to the sick woman's room. "God be praised, Herr Pastor, that you are come at last." "What? That is not surely the voice of a woman at the point of death?" I asked why I had been summoned in the middle of the night.
"Oh, my good Herr Pastor," said the Rötmanin, "you are so kind, so very kind, and have the art of conversing and instructing so delightfully, that the very sight of you is reviving, and makes me entirely forget my dangerous state. Here have I been lying for 7 nights, scarcely able to close my eyes, and I can't tell you how bored and tired I am. I thought the time would never pass, so I just sent for you. You are so good-natured, Herr Pastor, I thought you would sit and talk to me for a while, and amuse me. My husband must on no account hear that I sent for you. I am not at all in his good graces at present. He goes from home as often as he can, and even when he stays with me, he scarcely says one word. I believe he would have been very glad if I had died long ago. And as for my only child, Adam, he seems scarcely to know that I am in the world. Oh, Herr Pastor, anyone obliged as I am to lie here day and night, in this solitary house, unable to do anything, would feel like me, every day that passes to be an eternity, and every night even worse. If my Vincent were still alive, he would have watched me by day and night. He would have nursed me in a way in which no other human being ever can. So, my good kind Pastor, sit down here and talk to me. Would you like a glass of good watch-old brandy? It will warm you, you must take it, and shall positively not refuse. Catty, take down that long-necked green bottle from the shelf, the one farthest back, and give a glass of brandy to the Pastor."
What do you think were my feelings, Lena, when I heard the woman so coolly pouring forth all these fluent speeches?
"I should have had great difficulty in refraining from very hard words to such a bold evil creature. Quite too bad. To drag you out of your own house on a cold December night over snow mountains."
"And the wolf wandering about too," said the pastor indignantly.
"Don't talk about a wolf," rejoined Lena hastily. "This Rötmanin is the most ferocious wolf of all. I hope you gave her your opinion."
"Assuredly I did. May I be a little vain between ourselves? I must say then that never in my life was I better pleased with myself. I own I could scarcely help laughing at her cool impertinence and her childish want of consideration, for children are just so. They only think of themselves, and not of the sacrifices they exact from others. Say what you will, there is a certain degree of simplicity in the selfishness of the Rötmanin. She thinks only of herself, and never of others. Of course I did not fail to tell her that it was rather an arbitrary proceeding, so coolly to dispose of a person's night's rest, and that I did not even feel flattered by her esteeming my conversation so highly, and sending a court equipage for me, commanding me to appear at court. Still, as I was actually there, and had lost my night's sleep, I conversed with her, and tried to amuse her, so far as my powers permitted, and she took her share in the conversation, relating to me various anecdotes of good and evil, but she evidently preferred the latter, her chief delight being in detailing all sorts of bad actions, to prove the wickedness of the world, and she always wound up by saying,
"Before I die, there is one favour I ask of God, which is to give me some sign as to Vincent's murderers, that they may be all hanged and burned, even supposing half the village were included."
You know that when she begins on this subject she is full of vindictive projects, and yet I have pretty good proof that she had no great love for Vincent while he was alive. Now, however, she speaks of him with the most enthusiastic fondness, and as if all her love were buried in his grave, for no heart is so entirely evil that it does not seek some valid reason for such bitterness.
striving to prove that it had been devoted to some particular object for whose sake all else is to be disregarded. I tried to appeal to her conscience by saying that it was certainly permitted to love the dead, but that nothing more could be done to benefit them, whereas a great deal might be done for the living, and that she ought at last to yield about the affair of Adam and Martina. I depicted to her the delight she would take in her grandson. I tried to persuade her that in reality she had sent for me on this very account, but felt a certain reluctance to own this honestly to me. But I do believe a wolf must be lurking very near there. The Rötmanin broke out into a loud howl that she could only have learned from a wolf. It really made me shudder with horror, and I thought to myself, she will die on the spot, for sure am I that her age will choke her. She clutched the wall in her fury, and scratched it with her nails, and at last sank back. However, she very soon started up again, and exclaimed, "I thank God that I am still alive, and I trust He will spare my life for many a year to come, that even if I cannot leave my bed, I may still have strength to cry out and to protest, and with my last breath I will cry out and protest that never, never shall that miserable beggar's daughter, who herself led my Adam astray, become the mistress of this house. Why, in these days are there no longer men to be found to send out of the world such a wretched creature, and a child into the bargain? Pretty clergymen we have now, all lazy, good-for-nothing black coats. They have no longer the fear of God before their eyes, for here is a pastor who actually recommends a reward for sin and wickedness. Martina ought rather to stand at the church door with a wreath of straw on her head to do public penance. But here she shall never come. No, not if 1,000 such hypocritical parsons were to pretend they had a message from heaven. And if they were to wring my neck for it, my last cry would be, 'She shan't come here, she shan't come here. I will not suffer it, and this very day I will take care to settle that point.' The father and son, having been startled out of their sleep by the savage scream of the Rötmanin, now hurried into the room, and the old man spoke to me just as if I had intruded myself of my own accord into his house, and begged me distinctly to understand that he would not allow his wife to be tormented, let Shilder David send whom he would. Adam stood with clasped hands and looked beseechingly at me. I had no idea that the young man could look so gentle and anxious. I felt as if I were one of those doomed men who in legends are summoned by demons to do them a service. What a world this is! Are these the very men to whom for 10 long years past I have been anxiously preaching the gospel? Every word that I would fain have said seemed to freeze on my lips. I only desired that the sledge might be instantly got ready to take me home, but they paid no attention to me. At last Adam said, "I will drive you home myself, Herr Pastor. Pray forgive all that has occurred." "No!" exclaimed his mother violently. "He shan't go with you. Christopher, hold him fast. He is quite capable of marrying his good-for-nothing mistress on the spot." The father desired Adam to stay at home, and he made a vow to his wife, laying his hand on the Bible that I had left open. It made me shudder to see the man make such a vow on this holy book, as a token that he would faithfully perform it, that this very day he would see Adam's betrothal completed with the forest miller's Tawny. I scarcely remember how I got out of the house. I called the servant who had fetched me, and told him that I would walk on, and that he was to follow me as soon as possible with the sledge. Morning was just beginning to dawn as I went down the hill and through the forest, and I felt as if I were flying from a cavern where demons dwelt. I don't think that I lost my way, but the wolf met me. The animal stood still for a moment, looked at me as if uncertain what to do, and then trotted off quietly into the wood. I cannot deny that I was trembling from head to foot, and never in my life did I feel so paralyzed from terror as that instant. Besides, it was frightfully cold, and I was very foolish to walk on alone. There was no sign of the servant and the sledge. I thought it very possibly that those hard-hearted creatures would prevent his coming at all, and make me go home on foot.
I retraced my steps a short way, and anger and bitterness made me feel actually quite warm. Not far from the farm I met the servant driving along in no hurry, and luckily I found a flask of kirsch in my pocket that you made me take with me. I cannot tell you all the thoughts that passed through my mind during the hour when I was driving home in a half-waking state. Both King Solomon and Shirach have described the wicked woman very impressively. I could furnish them with very lively additions to their delineation. But, my precious Lena, what value would be their goodness, or the love of a fellow creature, without being tested by wicked men? Still, I cannot but rejoice that I have decided on leaving this district. I shall soon enter my 50th year, so I require less severe work. I have had hard enough toil in the days of my youth, and even if I lose my present and my future cure also, by persisting in my resolution, I am quite determined never to marry Adam to anyone but Martina."
Drawing a deep breath and dashing away the tears in her eyes, the pastorine said, "Yes, I do indeed think it will be a very good thing that we should go to another country where men are more civilized, and will also do more justice to your merits."
"Do not forget, however," said the pastor, "that although we have often much boorishness to contend against, still we have many very worthy persons here also. In our new destination we shall be sure to find both good and bad, and work enough. But now I must say I am dreadfully tired. I can see no one till 11 o'clock. I must go to rest, so try to keep all as quiet as possible. Good night, or rather good morning. When I rise I shall feel as if a whole year had elapsed since the nocturnal visit of the Rothmans."
The pastor went to his bedroom, which was cleverly heated by the parlour stove being placed in the wall between the rooms. Soon all was as still in the house as if it were midnight. Lena glided about on tiptoe, and she hung a green cloth over the bird-cage to silence the bird. And for the second time to-day she gave a liberal breakfast to those unfortunate beggars waiting outside, the sparrows and goldfinches. The wind speedily dispersed the crumbs she scattered on the window-sill. The hungry little creatures seemed, however, to find plenty of food, and at last flew away as quietly as if they had known that the pastor's sleep was not to be disturbed. The pastorine sat at the window with her work in her hand, and made anxious signs to anyone approaching the house to be quiet. Presently she saw the most pleasing of all sights in the country, the letter-carrier coming up to the house, and ran down quickly to meet him at the door to prevent his ringing, receiving from him several packets of letters from relatives and friends in the capital. She would not open any of the letters, for she wished that her husband should be with her when she read them, and that they should enjoy all the pleasant news together. None of the letters were, however, directed to her, and one bore the seal of the consistorial president. End of section 6. Read by Teodoro in 2022.